Okay, let's try this again. So, welcome in for, we're on week 4 of our 30 books in 30 weeks. So, we've got 26 weeks left. I can't believe we're almost a month in. As you guys are coming in live or re entering in, for those of you who were on a few minutes ago before I had my system failure, we're focusing on this book here. It's called Codependent No More. And this is our focus for week 4 of 30 books in 30 weeks. And so for those of you, as you come in, please share this video out. This is a great subject matter. There's a whole lot of codependent people out there trying to function optimally out in the world and failing miserably and failing unhappily. So it's a great subject matter, and this is absolutely a great book for us to focus on. For those of you who may not know me, don't really know what I do, my name is Marcy Batiste. I'm a public speaker, I'm an author, and I am a coach, and I love to help women shine. My specialty is curing emotional bankruptcy, and I do that by leading women on a journey to discover what I call their star power, and not for them to just merely discover their star power, but ultimately I want them to fully embrace that star power and everything that goes along with it, so that then they are able to then share out and help another sister along. And so I'm excited that you guys are with me, because this year I am on a focused mission to share with 1,000 women exactly how to embark on that journey and embrace their star power. So welcome in. I also have a company called Bankable Success Advisors, which is a leading recovery solutions provider here in the Valley, based in Phoenix, Arizona. And in that, a lot of the work is on domestic and workplace violence, recovery, education, and then business contingency. That's on the corporate side. And then on the individual, on the personal side, personal trauma recovery, domestic violence, trauma in childhood, self-esteem issues, obesity, the whole host, you name it. If it's holding you back and keeping you from pursuing your goal and keeping you from absolutely embracing your star power, then that's what we do. And it all starts with curing emotional bankruptcy, which is why this is such an important book. This book is a great tool if you are someone who is suffering from loving too much. That was one of the books we read earlier this year, Women Who Love Too Much. But Codependent No More really talks about the damage that is done when we operate in a codependent state. And so this book really walks you through not only what does it look like, but how does it affect you? How do you recover from it? And as most of you who are familiar with me know, I'm all about the recovery side of it. I believe that there is power after the pain. I'm proof that there's power after the pain. I was deeply, deeply codependent for most of my life. And it wasn't until I got very, very strategic about my own recovery, my own healing process, that I was able to even identify that. Up until that point, I didn't even know what that was. And so that's why, as I was rating my personal development library and preparing to share these various books with you all, this was one of my top 5 selections, because it is a game changer. It was a game changer for me. I historically had a history of very, very codependent relationships, always giving and never getting anything back in return. And I always felt inferior. I always felt less than. And one of the things that really, really moves me and propels me to do the work that I do with women is because I don't want anyone else to ever have to feel like they're less than ever again. Because I know that that's not the case. I know that better is possible. And so that's, kind of the push behind me. And I have 2 daughters. I have 2 adult daughters. And I certainly don't want them to have to, as I say, I don't want them to have to take the class in order to learn the lesson. I would rather teach the lesson from my experience. And so, That's what all of this stuff funnels into. It all funnels into this year's theme, which is raising the bar on personal success, on relationships, on life, on businesses, and really, really making this, as my clients in my Raising the Bar coaching program know, making 2018 truly the best year of their lives. And these ladies are on fire already, and we're only 2 weeks into the program. So that's what this is all about. Codependent No More. I titled this tonight Detach in Love, and what I want to talk about is the attachment piece of codependency and why that in particular can be so damaging. And before I go too deep into this, I want to say, hey Celeste, hey Sandra, I want to say, I don't want you to think for one second that if you are someone who operates in relationships in a codependent way that you're any way inferior. I don't want you to think that you're a bad person or that you're somehow defective. That's not the case. We operate in this space with the tools that we have, and so everything that we're doing in this video series, and the reason I do this video series is to add tools in people's toolboxes and to give you something more to think about, another way, another perspective, another viewpoint. And codependency really is a learned behavior, and it's learned in a variety of different ways. Sometimes it's taught as a religious part of a religious ritual. Sometimes it comes from some sort of trauma. A great deal of my codependency came from traumas from childhood. I had some abandonment issues from my childhood, from my father not wanting a relationship with me. Then I was molested when I was 12. Then I got pregnant when I was 17. The very first time I had sex, and the teen father, told me it wasn't his baby. So I ended up having an abortion. And all of those behaviors combined, those experiences combined, created the perfect storm to build a codependent life, because I was constantly seeking out approval. I was constantly seeking out that feeling of being enough, of being wanted, of being valued. And so I was willing to do absolutely anything it took to not have to feel the way those situations made me feel ever again. And so for me, like I said, codependency came from a number of different traumas. And so it was very much a learned behavior. It wasn't something that someone intentionally taught me, or I said, hey, I want to go out and be codependent. Yeah, that sounds like a great time. No, I didn't even know what it was until I started getting better. And so that's why I share and chose this book to share, because I want you to know what it is. And more importantly, I want you to know that it doesn't have to be permanent, that staying in a state of codependency is a choice. And if that's your choice, then we'll respect that. But if you want something different from your life, I can testify for you that it's possible. Better is possible. And I can help you with the tools to be able to do that. Sometimes codependency, you heard, oh, that's what a good one does. She takes care of her man. She takes care of her family. And so we're conditioned from the time we're little girls to give and to care and to nurture and to, meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, boys are taught to be rough, to man up, to not show affection. They're taught that women should take care of them oftentimes, that they should be the breadwinner, but in every other aspect, the woman should tend to their needs. And so that's really kind of that very ultra traditional mindset can be a breeding ground for codependency. Not to say that it is by any means, but it can be when it's to the extreme, because you have many men who are codependent and constantly pick extra needy, extra dependent women. And typically if you have one dependency, you have multiple dependencies, hence the term codependent. You can be codependent on people and problems. It's like an addiction. So for me, I used to say that that I was addicted to the chaos. And so I would rather operate in a space of the chaos that I know, so the crazy, the bad relationships and negativity, not quite being happy, sometimes being downright miserable, rather than work towards something that I don't know. I didn't know what the other side looked like. I knew what the chaos looked like. I knew what the pain looked like, and I had learned to function. I'd learned to function dysfunctionally in that environment, and so getting healed and getting whole was scary for me because I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that felt like, and more importantly, I didn't know how people would take me. And at the height of my codependency, acceptance from other people was paramount to pretty much anything else. And so that was one of the first things I had to shift, was the shift to make my own approval be enough, my own acceptance be enough, and understand that maybe for a lot of the time, nobody else was gonna approve. And I had to get to a place where that was just kind of okay. You can't work on yourself if you're obsessing over someone else. And that was the biggest thing. Like, literally, it took the physical abuse to be the thing that prompted me to start focusing on myself instead of focusing on other people. But as long as I was focusing on other people, and I was content for these very self-centered relationships, but they weren't centered on me, they were centered on these other people, then I didn't work on myself, and I didn't heal myself. And as long as I didn't do that, then it became a cycle, and it perpetuated itself. Which brings me to my subject matter tonight, and that is that healing really requires us to detach. It requires us to detach from people that we've always known for some time. It requires us to detach from the places that we go oftentimes. It requires us to detach from the organizations that we're involved in. It requires that we detach from some deeply rooted beliefs about who we are, about what our value is. So there are a number of levels of detachment that has to take place in order for us to begin the healing process. And detachment at its finest simply means being able to live in the moment and accept the reality for what it is. And those of you who follow me a lot know I'm a big one for the term "it is what it is, don't fight reality." I talk about that often because I know that that is a huge part of healing from codependency and learning to put yourself first. You have to be able to relinquish your regrets. You have to get over the past. You have to get over the fears. You have to not be so afraid of the future that you hold on to the past, because you've already been down that road. You know there wasn't nothing there good for your soul. You know that. But if you were like I was, that what you knew, even though it was not good for you, was still more comforting than going to and beginning to explore something that you have no clue about. And so one of the things that I did was I said, you hear me talk about it, I sold out to my happiness. So that was a way for me to learn to live in the moment and accept reality as for what it is. And so I don't look for other people's approval anymore. I don't none of my beliefs about who I am or my value or my contribution or none of that's based on what other people think. It's all based on what I know about who I am now, because I was able to make that detachment from all of those other environments. the facts are the facts. The truth doesn't change. And, early on in my business, I talked a lot about the truth is. And if you go back and you look at some of my old stuff, I had a hashtag, truth is this, truth is that. And here's the thing that I'll tell you. Your truth is indisputable. No one can dispute with you your experience. No one can debate with you your experience. That is your experience with whatever the situation is. So two people can share in the same experience, in the same event, and one can have one experience, one can have another experience. Neither one is wrong. It's just their individual experience. And so your truth is, your reality is your experience. And so how do you know when you have to detach? How do you know when the attachment is no longer healthy and it's bordering on obsession? Basically, if you can't stop thinking about that other person, that other thing, if you literally think to yourself, oh my God, I can't think about anything else. You think about it when you go to sleep. It's the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning, and it's not good for you. And like, this isn't good for me, but you just can't seem to stop yourself, then that's a sign, that's a red flag that it's time for you to begin to detach. Sometimes you just feel like, this person just makes me want to explode. It's time to detach. That's how I felt about my old boss in corporate. It was one of those things where the relationship had gotten so toxic and so unhealthy that every single day I was just like I was at my boiling point, on a boiling edge with her. And it wasn't worth it anymore. And I knew I had to detach, and that was really difficult because I had been with the company over half my life. So, but I had to pick happiness, healthy, whole, healed, or unhappy, toxic, obsessive. Couldn't do it. And so I had to detach. And so here's the thing. You can detach in anger, or you can detach in love. If you detach in anger, what that looks like is one of those kind of a F you moment. And I just say, I don't have nothing more to say to you, but you don't ever resolve the issue internally. You just you're still mad about it. You still feel like maybe that person owes you an apology, or you want an explanation for their behavior, or if they didn't show up, you expect them to explain themselves to you. And if they don't, then I'm not going to talk to you anymore. That's an example of detaching in anger. What I'll tell you about detaching in anger is it doesn't accomplish jack. In fact, you hold the toxicity and carry it with you, because every time you see that person, every time someone mentions that individual's name, you revert back to, oh my God, I hate them, I can't stand them, they're this, they're that, woo, 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 woo. That's from detaching in anger. So you're clearly carrying all that with you, versus detach in love. In other words, like I said, you accept the reality for what it is. And one of the things I say about people that I have to detach from is, it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a bad fit for my life. They may be perfect for somebody else. Their behaviors may be completely acceptable to someone else. They're not acceptable to me. But you're free to do you, boo. You are free to be the best, whatever it is that you are, that you can be. Don't let me stop you. And that allows me to walk away unapologetically. It allows me to appreciate the good stuff, appreciate the good moments, remember the good moments, and be okay. Because what I know to be true is that every situation that we find ourselves in, at some point, that relationship, that job, whatever, was what we wanted. And I know for a fact, even in my abusive relationships, not all of the time invested in those relationships was bad times. A lot of good times and a lot of good things came out of those bad relationships. And so when you can look at it that way and detach in anger and or detach in love by saying, this doesn't work for me anymore, wasn't all bad, no hard feelings, it is what it is, but I don't have anything further to say to you, and I don't really see any reason for us to be in further contact. And really, truly, genuinely mean that. So there is, I'm trying to think, any of my exes, any of my past relationships, any old jobs that I can't look back on and say, you know what? I don't regret any of that. It's part of the process. It was part of the learning experience. And hey, Donovan, and that's okay. Like, even the relationship that ended in physical abuse, like, it wasn't all bad. I had some of the best times of my life in the midst of that relationship, but when it was time to go, when he put his hands on me, I knew that I can't ever go back there. And I was able to, even in that, be able to detach in love, and to the point where when I went to therapy afterwards, my therapist told me I wasn't angry enough, and so I fired my therapist because I happened to know for a fact that living it with anger and detaching in anger is not good for you. It's not good for you. It's not healthy. And being able to detach in love means there's no more obligation. So there's nothing that any of my exes could call my phone or send me a text message. There's nothing that I would feel obligated to respond to, because I've put it behind me and I've accepted it for exactly what it is. I've accepted that reality, and know that you're free to do you, boo. Be the best you can be, but you're just not good for me, and I'm sold out to my happiness. So that's one of the best ways that I can describe how to truly detach in love, and that is to be able to just accept people for who they are, how they are. Remember, it wasn't always bad times, and at one point or another it was exactly what you wanted, and it just doesn't work for you anymore, and let them go be them, and that's okay. But then when they circle back around, you realize, and they realize, you've squared off your circle. So hope that makes sense. So that's my message for tonight, you guys. I hope you had a great day, and we'll be back tomorrow for day 3 from the book Codependent No More, which is from our 30 books in 30 weeks week 4 reading series. So I will talk to you soon. As always, I appreciate you for joining in, sharing this video out, subscribing to my YouTube channel, linking with me on LinkedIn, whatever. I just appreciate you. But most of all, thanks for living life on Mars, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.